I call Emma Harper, and then we move to closing speeches. Thank you.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I hope you're in a good mood for me as well this afternoon. I am pleased to speak in today's debate, and I'd like to thank committee members, clerks and those who gave evidence for this report to be created. I'm not a member of the Social Security Committee, but the issue of welfare is one which is important to many of my South Scotland constituents, including those in the South West of Scotland. And from the outset in my contribution today, I would like to put on record that it is this SNP government that will continue to challenge the UK government's punitive, unfair and unjust welfare reforms that take money out of the pockets of the most vulnerable people in our society and those who are just barely managing to get by. I completely agree with Claire Adamson's sentiment that social security is about support for people during the times when they need it most. Stigma is something that absolutely needs to be addressed when we are trying to support the people who are the most vulnerable in our society. Presiding Officer, the remit of the Social Security Committee's inquiry was to explore the potential impact of universal credit on in-work poverty, and we've heard specific casework examples today across chamber. And the committee included consideration of recent research on trends in low wages and in-work poverty, as well as indications of increasing financial need in working households, including, for example, increased use of food banks. And that's something we've seen a marked increase in the rise in Dumfries and Galloway in my South Scotland region. The Trussell Trust released figures last year revealing the use of food banks in Dumfries and Galloway. It rose between April and September by 44% last year, and that was over the same period the year before. This is the second highest rise of food banks across Scotland in all of the 32 local authorities. And Mark Franklin at First Base Food Bank in Dumfries says that his figures are similar to the Trussell Trust ones. So I would like to touch on some of the key findings from the committee's report, and I think that the most important is some of these issues that are worth reaffirming. The work allowance levels were reduced substantially and almost abolished in April 2016. And before 2016, every claimant had a work allowance, but since then, only those with a disability or a child get a work allowance, and the rate is based on whether someone's universal credit includes amounts for housing costs or not. The committee welcomed the increases to the work allowance in universal credit, but noted that the full work allowances should be restored to pre-2016 levels. This is an extremely important point, as it encourages people in the workplace by allowing families as well as single people who are just getting by some additional money every month to help with household costs. Another universal credit design issue is that of the UK government's policy intention to extend in-work conditionality, and Bob Doris talked about this in his opening remarks. Unlike working tax credits, in universal credit there is no requirement to work 16 hours before being entitled to claim. And although it is not being actively applied unless someone is on very low wages, the policy intention is that someone in receipt of universal credit could be subject to conditionality and even sanctions despite working more than 16 hours a week, as reaffirmed in paragraph 112 of the Social Security Committee's report. This, Presiding Officer, means that families across my South Scotland region who are just managing to get by with support from universal credit, which is £338 a month for single people and £541 for couples under the administrative earnings threshold, they could lose out of these vital funds should they not earn more money than was the case when they started their UC claim. The committee was also concerned about the plans for managed migration, particularly as many people in the receipt of working tax credits may not consider themselves benefits recipients. And the committee considered that the existing concerns with universal credit should be addressed before moving to managed migration. All these issues are a direct result of an out-of-touch UK government determined to press on with welfare reforms which are affecting people across the whole of Scotland. I would ask the Scottish Government to continue to do all it can to press for Scotland to lead the way and to have control over all welfare powers as soon as practicable. Thousands of individuals and families across Scotland are being forced into poverty because of devastating UK government welfare cuts. But of these cuts, social security spending in Scotland is expected to have reduced by £3.7 billion since 2010. The annual welfare reform report found that UK government's benefit freeze has led to huge reductions in spending, around £190 million of the current year 2018-19, rising to about £370 million by 2020 and 2021. This is equivalent to 3 times the annual police budget. It's staggering. The report also found that universal credit claimants are over 6 times as likely to be sanctioned as claimants of other legacy benefits. And young men are the ones most likely to be sanctioned. Local authorities and third sector agencies are being left to pick up the pieces of a broken system, investing their own money to support people on universal credit. And in my remaining time, I'd like to put on record my thanks to a number of third sector and charity agencies across Dumfries and Galloway working to mitigate the impact of Tory welfare cuts, including First Base Agency and Mark Franklin in Dumfries, who came to the committee to provide evidence. And in conclusion, I add my support to the Social Security Committee's report and call on the UK Government to halt the rollout of this flawed system, take seriously the concerns from across the third sector, even from international organisations such as the UN. I welcome this report and commend the report today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.